Our first guest is the host of the hugely popular radio program called The Howard Stern Show. Please welcome the one, the only Howard Stern, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the show.
It's good to be here, Dave. Always a lot of controversy when I come here. My career is never normal.
Right.
There's always a lot of pressure.
But you wouldn't want it any other way, would you?
No, this is the way I love it. And thank you for being here tonight.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah.
You look great, by the way.
I look good tonight.
You look tremendous. You look like you're in good shape.
A team of people have put me together.
Yeah.
It's getting harder and harder every day, so I'm trying to look good. It's not easy. I was not genetically blessed.
Now, here's what I know about your professional situation. You announced a month ago, 6 weeks ago, that in like 2006, 2005, you're leaving regular terrestrial broadcast radio and going to Sirius satellite radio.
That's right. That's right. Thank you. It's a big decision for me.
What precipitated this?
Well, you know, first of all, looking at my career, I've been in radio now over 20 years. Mm-hmm. And when I got into radio, Dave, all I wanted to do was to make the medium exciting. I wanted to get on the air and make people laugh and have a lot of fun and sort of restructure the way people listen to the radio. It was always boring and dull to me as a kid. Mm-hmm. And it became very exciting to be on the radio in recent years because of the government interference and what's been going on with the FCC, Clear Channel Broadcasting. Doing my job every day has become increasingly difficult. And, you know, I liken it to if you watch HBO and you watch a Chris Rock concert, you go, wow, that guy's funny. Mm-hmm. It's good stuff. And, right. it's blue, and it's whatever his language is. If you were to take Chris Rock and put him on my radio station today, you'd have to cut out 99% of his material. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't laugh. You would think Chris Rock sucked if you watched him on my, on my radio station or on a network. So it's become increasingly difficult to do my show. The same show I did a year ago, the government will fine me for. I have millions of dollars of fines against me, and this is my way of checkmating the United States government and saying, you know what, I've got somewhere to go. We're going to build a new future. This is the beginning of the new age.
Okay, now, that's good.
Thanks.
But you raise so many questions here. First of all, are you suggesting that without dirty material and things that would not be allowed on your radio show, Chris Rock is not funny? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I am suggesting that. I've seen Chris Rock in situations where he cannot be himself. And I can't be myself anymore on the radio. I'm not looking to get on the radio and say the F word. I'm not looking to get on the radio and make everything so blatantly sexual. That's not what this is about. I'm talking about 10, 15 years ago, the topics I used to talk about on the radio, I'm now being fined millions of dollars for. So where does it end? You know, just the other night, we see that on ABC, a woman took off her towel in front of a football player, and now we're talking about possible fines?
Right.
What's happened? I mean, it feels like we're in a religious country. This guy, Michael Powell, the son of Colin Powell, who is not elected to public office, he's telling us what we can hear.
Chairman of the FCC.
Chairman of the FCC is telling us what we can hear.
Okay, let me go back to what you said earlier. You're fighting three things. One, you mentioned Clear Channel.
Yep.
One, you mentioned the government specifically, and the FCC as the agency of the government. How are those three organizations, or how are those three entities conspiring or working, if not conspiring, against you?
Well, I mean, I hate to be so serious.
Yeah,
it is a conspiracy. I hate to be so serious. Usually I come on here and we have lots of laughs. In fact, I'll pull down my pants. Dave will try to rub my buttocks. It'll be great. If you want to do that, we can do it now. Come on! It would be great to get a few FCC fines right here, wouldn't it?
Yeah. But again, tell me about, here's what I know about Clear Channel.
Yeah.
And I'm not paying attention to anything. I'm just doing my little dog and pony show here.
Right.
I read an article in Rolling Stone this summer.
Right.
Clear Channel owns 1,200 radio stations.
Yeah.
Many stations in the same market. They've essentially wiped out individuality of the radio station and played havoc with the record industry and the music industry in live concerts. I was stunned.
Well, yeah.
Three corporations in this country control 60% or more of the radio audience. Three corporate entities.
Yeah, well, what that translates to, when you listen to the radio now, you're hearing music that, it's so difficult to get a record on the radio. This is, when I made my decision to go to satellite radio, it wasn't one I made easily. I think I'm the first broadcaster to walk away from an empire. I mean, I make a lot of money for Viacom. I make a great living. I have millions of listeners. And I said to myself, I don't think I'm committing suicide going to pay radio. I think this is the beginning. This is the only place left to go. When you turn on that Sirius radio, which I listen to it all weekend, no commercials. If you're into bluegrass country music from the 60s, not the 70s, the 60s, you can have that.
Right, yeah.
And it's fascinating. You want the Jet game, you can hear the Jet game, and they post the scores across the dial. I'm programming 3 channels over there now, and they will be revolutionary. I will be able to do what I want. So I'm walking away from something, millions of listeners.
Let me ask you a question. As I understand it, the reason there is government control of broadcasting the way you do it now is because you're broadcasting over the public airwaves.
That's right.
And that's a public trust.
Yes.
And the broadcasters have to protect that public trust. And if they violate that public trust, then there will be government intervention. Now, how is it any different if the radio signal is bounced off a satellite and then back down through the airwaves? And why won't you be subject to future restrictions at satellite radio?
Well, the difference is my listeners now, if they come with me, and I hope they do, and that's sort of why I'm here. I want them to come. To answer your question, for 40 cents a day, when you pay for something, you're paying for it to come into your home, much like cable or anything else. And in the beginning of cable, everyone said, well, I'm not going to pay for TV. When you hear the difference, and when you hear the type of programming we can put on, you will see that 40 cents a day is not too much. And that's the reason the government cannot regulate it. If you're paying for it, it's not the public airwaves. We don't get any of this nonsense. Fox was just fined $1.2 million for a show no one watched. And a guy, an ex-TV guide writer, went and researched. 3 people complained. 3 people complained. $1.2 million.
What was the show?
It was called Married to, I don't know what even the show was, Married to Something. It was one of these reality shows. 3 people complained. How can we have a democracy? How can we have an open exchange of ideas? Yes, I mean, we talk about sex, but come on. I mean, everywhere in Europe they talk about sex. This is all taboo. People are getting fined. We're being told what we can listen to. It's time for a change. I'm going. Come with me, please. That's all I'm saying. Very simple. Now, and by the way, Dave, I've been unable to have this discussion on the radio. Because
they won't let you talk about it, right?
Yeah, they'll allow me to say Sirius radio and things like that, but I can't really discuss with my audience how to convert over to satellite radio.
We'll explain that. But first of all, you work for Infinity, is that right? Which is owned by Viacom.
By this company.
Which also owns the CBS television network.
That's right.
Yeah. And I can remember years ago talking to you, you were complaining about you can have a conversation using sexually explicit terms and be in trouble for it, whereas on the Oprah Winfrey show, she can talk about penis all day and nothing happens.
That's true. I did a thing where I was on the air talking about oral sex. And I used, I thought, fairly tame language. I got fined $1 million for that. Oprah Winfrey had a show about 13-year-old girls who are giving oral sex. They're high school kids, young kids, and the language was very graphic. And you compare the transcripts side by side, you'd say, well, if you're going to fine me, you got to fine Oprah.
Right.
And the chairman of the FCC said, you know what, we can't fine Oprah because she's beloved and you're not. Well, look.
Well, you can't argue with that,
That's fairly true. But still, give me a break.
But
I'm just trying to make a living, Dave.
Yeah. But is there a difference contextually if there's a discussion on your show in that context? Does it make it something we can't have on the radio versus the context in Oprah show? And you say the topic in both cases was oral sex. But is there a possible difference that you would recognize there or not?
No.
Yeah.
That's it. Quite simply, Dave, we're talking about the fact that nothing is fair anymore. Arbitrary decisions are being made. There are decisions being made, Oprah's good, we like her. This has even gotten political. When I was working for Clear Channel, they fired me, I think, from 9 stations on a whim. And one of the reasons they fired me is I didn't support President Bush. Clear Channel is busy throwing parties in markets for the Iraq war. And I hardly think that's something you should be throwing a party for. They're throwing rallies. And so I didn't support that. And the next day I was fired. My fellow broadcasters are not standing up for me. I am turning my back on regular terrestrial radio. I believe in 5 years, give me 5 years, and I am telling you, satellite radio will be the dominant medium in radio broadcasting. It will be satellite and it will be Sirius.
Now, what I know about this, your audience is like 9 million people. Is that 9 million listeners a week is pretty much what you get?
I believe it's 37 million, Dave.
37 million?
And last I checked, you were 100 million, weren't you?
Yeah, that's right.
That's what it was. No, we have about 15, 16 million listeners.
And the satellite outlets now reach about 3 million people. Is that right?
Yeah, and the one that I'm going to right now, this is the birth of something new. 700,000 people right now subscribe to Sirius Radio. And that's sort of daunting for me. That's dangerous. It's like, wow, I'm used to flicking a switch and talking to millions of people. Sure. And that's a tremendous thing. There's a family there. And I guess I'm here tonight to appeal to my family and say, look, I know I'm asking you to pay for something. Christmas time is here. I think one of these little boxes is a great gift. I don't want to go all QVC on you, baby, but you know, why not do it? It's a small investment. It is an investment in the future. I believe it is a political movement because I could have stayed in regular radio and made a very good living. Right. It really is.
Well, in many ways, you pioneered the modern radio culture, and now
now I'm here to destroy it.
That's right. But you're now taking another step, and if you're right, and many people, the serious people, chief among them, believe that you are right.
Right.
This will once again turn the nature of radio upside down.
We're going to see nature. We're going to see the nature of radio change. And you were one of the first people to put me on national television, and I think you were somewhat taken with what I did on the radio. And you called me an innovator at that time. I believe, and I've never been more excited about radio. Today I went out and started handing out radios to people on the street. Yeah. Now I don't do that.
Let's explain how people get the service, but let me ask you a question. When you were a kid listening to radio,
right,
would you have paid for radio in your home? Would you have subscribed to a radio service?
Well, seeing as how, as my father said, I'd never be able to get a job and I didn't have any money, there's no way I could have paid for anything.
Oh, I see.
But the fact of the matter is, I think, remember when we all got cable and everyone said, why would I pay for TV?
Right.
When you hear the service, when you hear Sirius, I am telling you, you will never go back to listening to regular radio. And I'm banking my future on it. I mean, really, I'm walking away from something big.
I remember the first time I saw cable, it was someplace in California, and it was HBO.
Right.
And they had a movie on, and then the movie would run, and then another movie would run, and then that movie would stop, and then the first one would start. And I just sat there, and I thought, well, I would never have gone to see these movies in the first place. Why do I want them here in my house?
Right.
And that was like 20 years ago, and now
what are you doing?
HBO rules the world.
It really does, and this is exciting, and it's good for all broadcasters because now we have a home, somewhere we can go. It means more competition. It means more jobs for broadcasters, and I think that we're going to see out of satellite radio more innovation.
Right.
And it's going to be it is the future.
And in addition to penis, what else will you be able to say?
Well, let me tell you, if I told you what I'm going to say, the first show is going to be amazing. There's a lot to get off my chest. Here's the truth of it, though, Dave. If today I go on satellite radio and you say, well, gee, what are you going to say? It wouldn't be one of the 7 dirty words.
Right.
I'm starting a folder during my radio show of all the things I can't talk about now. And I would go on the air and just talk freely. When a guest comes on, let them talk. I get a button hit on me now. There's 5 different dump buttons, they call. My show is like Swiss cheese when I'm done with it every day. I don't even know how people listen anymore. It's hard and difficult to get the gist of the show.
And your point is, you really, as a broadcaster, have not changed in 12, 15 years.
No.
The material and the topics and the language, pretty much the same.
Absolutely not. And some of the stuff I've been fined for is ridiculous. I did a bit 15 years ago. I started getting fined, and it's gotten worse.
How much have you been fined by the FCC?
A couple of $1 million. I couldn't even give you the right amount. And by the way, there's a new law going into effect that George Bush is going to sign. The Senate, Congress is all for it. They're going to start fining individual broadcasters. Now, this sends a chill through everyone. So anyone who's on the radio or television, if you screw up, well, guess what? $500,000 worth of fines. That's right. And that's a lot of money. And one more thing, Saving Private Ryan was going to air. And broadcasters are afraid on Veterans Day to honor veterans, guys who are fighting this war, brave guys. You can't put Steven Spielberg's movie on the air. Now, this is not just happening like in Biloxi. Cleveland, a big market.
Several markets. Was it like 10 markets?
Yeah, they were afraid because they were afraid the government's going to fine them. Satellite radio, everyone. It's the future.
We'll be right back here with Howard Stern, everybody. gentlemen. All right, let's show them the device tonight. What about, remember the guys that were working at a station and they had people call up from St. Patrick's, they were having sex at St. Patrick's, and everybody was run off the radio. Now, would you support that? How do you feel about that?
No, I wouldn't. I would not support going into St. Patrick's and having sex in St. Patrick's. That's not honoring people who are religious. I've never been about that. I'm for outrageous radio. I'll say whatever's on my mind. I won't invade somebody's church and do something like that. It's not my thing.
Yeah.
I'm not for that. That's just not me.
Now, also, one of the, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, one of the fines regarding you and your radio station involved a racial slur. A caller invoked a racial slur in some discussion.
No, that wasn't it. A guy called up from the Ku Klux Klan who we have on our show regularly. He uses the N-word, and I've always been for. I would use any racial slur if I felt I was making fun of the person using the racial slur. I've never been one to use racial slurs. I don't consider myself a racist, but the fact of the matter is that we have real conversation on the air.
Right.
There are people in this country who use the N-word. And certainly, if they're going to use the N-word, I want to hear it on the radio, and I'll ridicule them. I'll ridicule anyone I think is wrong. I think the show actually has a high moral value. I think people do learn, sexuality, if you're uptight about it, then you shouldn't listen to my show. We're going to explore everything.
Sexuality and racial slurs, two completely different circumstances.
Absolutely.
And I just wonder if maybe in terms of a racial slur, you can't be too careful. I mean, in what usage is it acceptable? How is it defendable? How can you make sure that people understand sarcasm or satire when that word is invoked?
If a guy calls up and he starts calling another guy a filthy kike or using the N-word or whatever, some Spanish slur, you could sit there and listen to it and go, what the hell is going on in the country? What's wrong with you? Are we ever going to get along? There's a way of sort of maybe disarming that kind of language if you confront it.
Right.
That's what I believe.
Right, but also
I'm okay with that.
I'm just wondering, is there also a segment of the audience that may not get it, may not understand what you're doing, and just have perhaps their own prehistoric beliefs reinforced by hearing that word on a broadcast station?
Dave, fortunately on my show, everyone gets it. That's the lucky thing about it. So there's no people mistaking anything. I explain everything way too much. These radios, and you make a good point and all that, and listen, I do 5 hours a day live, and not everything's going to come out perfect, and that's the point too. If I'm sitting there, it's like being on a trapeze. I can't sit there with the government over my shoulder, sitting and fining me every 2 seconds. And now what they're doing is, I've tried to comply with the rules every time. They've started fining me for material I've done 3 and 4 years ago. They don't know what to do with me. Yeah. The religious right is completely out of hand. They send letters, they send faxes.
How come President Bush won the election? Because it seemed to me you were working very hard to make sure he was not reelected, and many, many other powerful groups in this country also doing the same. And the idea was that young people, Democratic registrations were higher than ever, and yet he still won the election. I
think a lot of my listeners did come out and vote. I think we had a big influence on the vote. Don't forget something, too. Because of the government regulations, my syndication business has been stopped cold. I was on my way to being on all over the country, 67 markets and going up. Now I'm down to 40-something markets. Had I been on in more markets in the country, I believe we would have had a bigger influence on the election. I can't change an election. I can't get somebody, to move that quickly. But I know a lot of people were affected by what we had to say. We presented a good argument. But to tell you the truth, I can't syndicate my show anymore. Radio stations are deathly afraid of the religious right. They're afraid of the Bush administration, and they're afraid to get on the wrong side of some guy named Michael Powell who, got his job from his father being in the Bush administration.
Right, when we come back, we'll sell some radios.
All right, let's sell some radios.
We'll be right back with Howard. Right here?
Well, that's for you. What we got here, Dave, is a little, this is a boom box I'm going to give to you.
It's like the home unit.
Yeah, this is the home unit. This is a Sirius satellite box. It's a lot of fun. I think when you hear the programming, you'll love it. And a great Christmas gift.
What does that cost? What is this item right here?
I think this is $150.
Right.
And then there's a $12 fee a month for listening to this thing, but I'm telling you the programming is impressive. I think even without me on it, there's a lot to listen to there. Really, 120 channels and really awesome
you also
stuff.
you get this for your car. The cars are actually coming with the satellite radio.
This little unit here pops right out, and you put it in your car, and you can go to Radio Shack, you can go to Circuit City. They pop it into your car. You can. A lot of the new cars have it. The technology is in its infancy, in the sense that finally we have this stuff available for the home and the cars, and it's a lot of fun. I think it's really going to make a difference.
And will you be taking everybody with you? Will like Baba Booey be going?
Baba Booey is coming. Everyone is coming over to the new place.
Yeah.
And to listen, thank you.
Now you know what Sirius is, don't you? You know what the word Sirius is.
Well, yeah, I think I do. It's the star and the whole thing and the little dog logo and all that.
It's Canis Major, the constellation, and other than the sun, it's the brightest star in our sky.
Kiss me. Thank you.
Good luck, Howard.
All right, everyone. Sirius Radio for Christmas. It's a good one. And thanks, Dave. Thanks for helping me get the word out. Okay.
We'll be right back here with Alanis Morissette, everybody.